Hello and welcome to part 4 of this series where we compare Logic's own samples with BBC Discover by Spitfire Audio, really seeing is there a clear winner, which is better, should we use both, should I just use the Spitfire's own, or am I underutilizing Logic's own samples? Now today we are specifically talking about percussion. We've looked at the strings, the brass, the woodwind, and now the final part of this really, percussion. So let's jump really right in now instantly. Again, what I love about this little UI that Spitfire Audio have made is, especially with the Discover, you can just click on each section. I don't think I've really mentioned this in the other videos, maybe the first one, but if I want the violins, I can click there, violins 2, violas, cello, etc. And this is a great feature because, of course, it's easy to click between your instruments, but it also teaches you the position of where everything kind of sits within the orchestra. So if you want to move on to conducting or other things like that, it's really handy to know the layout of the orchestra. But of course, we're talking about the percussion, which sits right at the back, and we're going to jump right in with the harp and celeste. We already have the harp loaded up. Now, of course, in comparison with BBC Discover's easy UI, when we're actually looking at Logic's, we simply just go into the orchestral section and we have all our stuff within here. And of course, we've already preloaded the harp. We're going to start with Logic's own, go into BBC Discover's. Which one's better? And which one would I suggest? I'm just going to have a quick look to see the mapping. Do we have multiple? Oh, it's only one sample, but it's one sample between two. Okay, so by the looks of it, very similar, because I know BBC Discover is only one round robin, so one recording, no dynamic layers, so it really is going to be who's better at recording stuff. Okay, so that's Logic's own, not bad at all, and BBC Discover. Now I am betting we're going to be hearing a lot more reverb with these guys, so I'll be intrigued to see. A lot quieter, I'm noticing straight off the bat. And of course, I've said this is probably every single BBC Discover patch. The room. We have this beautiful room setting, which all the instruments work really well together. So I'm just going to hike that up about 200%. I noticed this with the Pro version as well. The harp, it is naturally a quieter instrument, but you do have to hike that volume up a bit. See, that's 200%. So both are actually really nice samples, and the only real difference I'm actually seeing is the reverb. You can't get a more intimate sound with BBC Discover. You have that room, you're stuck with that room, and if you want that room, great. If you don't want that room, you're gonna either have to buy the Pro version or the Core. So why not instead just use Logic's own? Both sound very similar. I think BBC Discover maybe has a little bit more No, I'm not even going to say that. The only difference is the reverb. Let's move on and go on to the Celeste and see how that sounds. And let's go find our Logic Celeste. It's probably under keyboards. There we are. And let's start, as always, with Logic's. Ooh, that's very nice and intimate. That's very beautiful. Actually, I really like Spitfire Audio's percussion library. It's an old one of theirs, an old sample library, but they're Celeste in that. Oh, just all those instruments, and I'll do a video on them. Highly recommend. One of the first things I bought was their percussion library, because the miking, there's only 3 mic positions: close, decatory, and ambient, and the difference in each mic, absolutely beautiful. The natural room, but we're not talking about that. We're talking about free stuff today. I like that. Let's move on and have a quick comparison. A lot more room instantly, and note we still have about 200% on it over here. So this isn't 100% volume. But we did also turn up Logic's Own, so what you'll probably notice as well with Logic's Own, you can actually play a lot lower than BBC Discover. As you can see, they've gone as low as they can, and then they've just stretched that final sample. So you can hit a low note. Don't know if you want to be using those notes, but if you do, there you go. While Discover, we can go as low as that. I'm noticing an octave difference there as well. Although, what's interesting about that, actually, now that I mention it, Logic's Own is an octave higher than what I'm playing. And when you actually score the Celeste, generally, it actually plays an octave higher than what you write it. So I think Logic actually has it kind of right there, I think. So very similar to the harp, if you want that intimate sound, go for Logic's Own. But if you want that room, I think you have a bit more of a bell effect with BBC Discover as well, a bit more metallic. But differences are minute, barely. It basically is between, do you want a close, intimate sound, or do you want a more distant, roomy sound? All right, moving on to our timpani hits. So we've got the Logic's Own and BBC Discover. Now, something I've noticed just looking instantly at Logic's Own is we have the forte and the piano version of the sample. So there's your piano, and there's your forte. There's also tremolos and a crescendo, and for the life of me, I can't seem to work out how to actually specifically play these samples without swapping the patch, which is a bit annoying. I know with the others there was a little drop down, the different articulation sets. There's not an articulation set for this, so I don't know how to swap between them, and even if you click on here, it's not down there. So what you kind of have to do, I've noticed, is click on it, go into orchestral, tuned, and then here we go. Here's timpani tremolo crescendo, and timpani single strokes, as well as the timpani plus patch. So I don't know if somebody knows more than me about this, but put it in the comments if you know how to just swap it within the single patch between these different samples, because I'm kind of stumped. But anywho, you can just swap between them by clicking up there, which is a benefit in comparison with BBC Discover, because BBC Discover, we just have the standard big, hit. One sample. I'm going to turn that volume back down to 100 because we hit that and it went boom. What's nice, instantly, that space works really nicely with percussion, and especially things like the timpani and the bass drum, you want a nice bit of room. but you're not going to get that tremolo, that crescendo, that roll that we really like in our epic orchestral pieces. With this, you're going to get a bit of a shotgun effect if you're not too careful. So let's go onto the Timpani Plus and just... It's weak. It sounds like I'm tapping a snare drum or something, I don't know, like a bongo. The size, you can really hear the size with BBC Discover, while Logic's Own, it's a bit weak. But that being said, let's quickly click on the other things we actually have. So the tremolo, and see how this compares. See that? So useful. And using CC11, our expression. And you'll notice there's there's 3 different layers. There's the forte, in-betweeny boy, and piano. So nice little tremolo there, which is extremely handy. And there is a tremolo crescendo as well. See, that with a nice reverb is almost more useful than BBC Discover. I think this is taking the cake here. Let's look at our last one, single strokes. I think this is just what we were playing with. Oh! Okay, it's actually more beneficial for you to do it this way than the Plus. Instantly, we have 4 dynamic layers here. You can see right here the 4 different layers, and you can probably hear them there. And so that's as good as round robins, if I'm honest, and depending what sort of sound you want. So just doing the single strokes, and then of course you have all those other things with your timpani there. So you know what? Logic takes the cake here. It wins for the timpani, even though, yes, you have that lovely room, and if that's the sound you want, just that nice big boom on a single note, there you go. But I'm not going to lie, most of the time when I use the timpani, I'm using it for these tremolo crescendos. And there's a patch where I just have to press 1 key, nice and low, and there you go, maybe even lower. There you have it. While we're kind of stuck with just... So that is our timpani rolls. Now, untuned percussion, what do we actually have in here? Because we need to compare this with something in Logic. So just your orchestral kit, basically. Beautiful room. All good sounds. Let's move on to our orchestral kit here and see what else we have. Now, if we go into the piano roll, you can actually see in each individual sound here, so you don't have to kind of guess. Just see the assortment. So I think just do exactly what we did with BBC Discover and just play up and see what we got. Okay, starting up the kick. So instantly we have more sounds. You have literally the full 88 keys worth of sounds with Logic's Own. You'll notice they're a lot more intimate. You have a mix of everything from kicks, quite a few different varieties, snares, knocks, rolls, metals, stuff, cymbals, bits and bobs. All quite intimate sounds. You have more choice, but a lot of this stuff... I like having a bit of space. Let's put a reverb on this, see if we can get it sounding similar. Again, Space Designer, love this reverb. It's free. Normally I use a different sort of reverb, but for the purpose of this video, I want it so everyone can do this. You know what, stick it like that for now. Maybe a bit much. There we go. Not quite. So, samples on both sides sound good. If you want something more intimate, Logic. If you want something more with a bit of space, BBC Discover. If you're wanting more sounds and maybe BBC Discover doesn't quite have what you want because it doesn't have as much choice, you've got Logic. So I'm noticing a theme here with that Logic is actually has got more, which doesn't surprise me. Percussion is quite a popular thing and you can go all over the place with it. So you really haven't got much when it comes to that with BBC Discover, but it's not a percussion specific library, it's an orchestral library. Okay, let's move on. Tubular Bells. Tubular Bells, okay. Logic's own. Why is it a triangle? Not exactly what I would call a tubular bell, but okay. This is another instrument I like with a bit of space, and actually a lot of the time when I do use the tubular bell, I tune it down by an octave, because you get this really nice, rich church bell-like sound, especially when you have a lovely room for it to go in as well. And so with the benefit with Logic is you don't actually have to do anything, you can just play a nice low note there. Bit in your face, again, I would have liked to have a bit more space with this, but you can stick a reverb on it. While with BBC Discover you can't tune, well, I guess you can tune it down if you really, yeah, you can go here. Let's try that actually. Lovely space. That's how a tuba bell should sound. See, there's more size with BBC Discover. And then if I tune that down, why can I do sense? There you go, or even tune it down even further. You can get that really nice low sound. I prefer BBC Discovers there. It has that little bit of space. Why would you want an intimate tuba bell? Maybe that's what you want. There you go, you've got it. Choose Logic's. BBC Discover takes over to the tuba bells. Marimba. I have worked with the marimba in Logic before, and I was not a fan of it, but it's been a while since I have, because I use the Spitfire Audio's percussion library nowadays. So this is another problem I find with, you really have to sometimes just type in the instrument, because it's not where you'd think it'd be. You'd think, oh, it's mallet. Why would it not be just percussion? Okay. But if you know what you're looking for, just type it in. Easy. Right, mapping. Do we have anything interesting? Oh, yes, we have a lot. Are those round robins? We have round robins. That's a first. Okay. So we have lots and lots and lots of samples. It looks like 3 round robins and 3 dynamic layers. That is awesome. And in comparison with Logic, where we have 1 dynamic layer, and it's just simply how hard you're hitting it, and 1 round robin, that could be a huge... And that has quite a nice natural reverb on it. Less of a shotgun effect because of those round robins and different dynamic layers. Not as intimate as I expected it to be. I expected it to be a lot more intimate. But we can also change the reverb to make it more intimate if we wanted to by just simply going in here and turning that reverb right down. So there you go. And ambience as well, you can turn that off. Vice versa, you can just turn that up, and it's quite a nice dreamy effect. And in comparison, it sits very much to the left. If I'm honest, Logic steals the cake again. You can't make that any closer. That's got quite a bit of distance on it, and if you really want to move it a lot more forward, you're not going to get that. We have this almost clicky sound quite forward, and the actual bit I want to be forward is not there, just this clicky sort of... The fact that you have the fact that you have round robins and 3 dynamic layers really does just go to show Logic is really taking the cake there. But at the end of the day, it's whatever sounds best within your project. If you really do want that space and you're using a lot of BBC Discover sounds already, use it. There is no problem with just putting both of them together. If you want it to be intimate at the same time, you still want that in the back, or you want multiple. This one's specifically an African marimba. Is there different types? Glass marimba, okay. African marimba, there you go. Xylophone, and now we have to go all the way back. Orchestral, percussion, and the xylophone is there. Right, something similar to the marimba? No, sadly. There's no consistency with these percussion instruments, is there? Right, Logic Zone first. So this is the xylophone, just so we don't get confused. Ugh. That sounds like really just tight and narrow, like someone stuck that through a filter. Ugh. That's not much better. Again, that just... like that brash sort of tail. Logic takes it there because you don't have that brash, clicky. Not much else to it. I think we'll leave it at that. Let the samples speak for themselves in that situation. Glockenspiel, both I don't like. Okay, Glockenspiel. And let's have a tinker with, after we check our mapping. It does sound a bit narrow. Not as narrow as a xylophone. It has that lovely, intimate and pleasant tapping sort of sound. And let's see how BBC Discover fares. I'm not looking hopeful. That's not terrible. A little bit of brashness at the end, but a lot more usable. I will admit I do not use the BBC Pro's percussion section much. I use the harp. I think the harp's beautiful, and with the different mic positions you can get this really beautiful intimate harp sound, and you do have round robins and dynamic layers with the BBC Pro. But as I've probably repeatedly said throughout this video, I mostly, actually, I will show you just so that you know and we can get it out the way and I can start rambling on about it. The actual instrument I use when it comes to any sort of percussion, this is what I use, and it's got all your tune, drums, low, etc., and absolutely beautiful. As I said, it is an older one. The UI is quite old, but absolutely beautiful, intimate or distant, however you want it, very controllable. But we're talking about free stuff. We're going to shut up about that now. Just to let you know that even the pro stuff, don't buy this library for the percussion. Buy it because it's if you're going to buy it at all, because it's a whole orchestra that fits together, not specifically for an individual section. If you want an individual section, there's hundreds of individual sections you can buy. You're buying this or using this because it's an entire orchestra that sits together, and they all work as unison. So even though we're doing side-by-side comparisons, there is a lot of consistency within this UI, this patch, these samples, the way they've sampled them, while in comparison with Logic's own, yes, they're intimate, but when you're creating space and you want to create this sense of this orchestra within the same room, especially as a beginner, it can be very difficult. BBC Discover lets you cheat in that sense. Glockenspiel, we played it, right? And we didn't like it, right? Intimate, spacious, dreamy. Not much else to really do with that. Why would I want more reverb? I get, what happens if I do this? Is there even a difference? Yeah, subtly. Okay, and is that everything? Yes, that's everything within BBC Discover. But within Logic, there is so much more. Percussion, there's a whole just percussion section where you have Coffee Shop, Latino, Studio, and I will let you play around and mess with those. I've actually done an entire video just on free percussion samples. I'll leave a link somewhere on the screen right now. Check that out, because there's some really good ones, especially by Orchestral Tools. They've been releasing a lot of free stuff recently, and there's some really good percussion on there. And of course you have Logic's own as well, and I've been saying in all the videos, don't underutilize Logic's own. So as well as exploring the free stuff, do go in, have a look at all the different things you can get. Of course, specifically talking about orchestral stuff, you'll find most of it within here, but just that side-by-side comparison, I'm not gonna lie, with so much choice, you can struggle to kind of go, oh, I want this, or do I want to use this, or should I use that? BBC Discover does kind of narrow it down to, these are the instruments we use, and they generally are within percussion. I can't really think of much else out of the side of these that it's your everyday stuff, while Logic, it's like, okay, it's got this, and this, what should I use? So there is the advantage of less is more. This video is not going to be it for the series. I had a great comment by somebody, begins with Z. I will shout him out when I do the video, about doing a comparison with the actual orchestral strings stuff, because I specifically looked at the studio strings right here, while they actually do also have their own stuff, but within the sampler as well. And you can see here we actually have a lot of bits and bobs with that. So I'm going to be doing another video kind of looking at the studio strings versus maybe the orchestral strings that Logic has, seeing which is maybe better to use there, and maybe throwing in some more BBC Discover, just a quick reference as well. We're going to do the same with the brass, and I'm also currently getting everything ready for a video where I'm going to compare this epic orchestral piece that I created using my everyday samples, the stuff I've paid for, and turning it into something that's just using the free stuff we've talked about. So then we're going to really compare how big of a difference it is using paid stuff compared to the free stuff which we have talked about. Is it a big difference? Is it really worth it? When should we really start buying stuff? And just really seeing how narrow that gap is. And I'm actually, especially right now, I'm in that process of transferring everything over. I'm learning a lot, and it's actually very interesting to see, and I'm excited to do that video. It's definitely one to watch out for, because I think we're all going to be surprised at the results. But let's stop rambling. Let's leave it there. I hope you've enjoyed this series so far. I think we're all learning and actually being quite surprised at the results here. As always, thank you for watching. Like, subscribe. It helps. Leave a comment about anything you want me to do. As I said, somebody else did, and I'm literally going to make a video on it this next week, I believe. So I look forward to doing that, and I will see you in the next video.